Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are bum in the year of the Dresden.
Year
we are,
of the Dresden.
and we are finishing up the plot of Summer Night by Jim Butcher. Dun dun dun.
Jim Butcher. He
A
has
book
a
we
very
actually like.
ominous name.
He does. Jimothy
Jim
Butcher.
Jimothy.
Jimothy, may I call
I tried
it?
to make that joke in front of my employees at work,
Oh
and
no.
he did not get it, and I felt so ridiculous. And I was just like, okay, never mind.
Oh no, that's so funny because
Apparently, he's
like,
never seen The Office, and I'm just old.
well, you're old because he's a teenager, so he's just like,
That just, I'm
why
like,
would you put?
17-year-olds watch The Office,
I
right?
know. Well,
Apparently
some of
not.
them, but not all of them.
And that's one of the
Jim,
better jokes on that.
it's one of my favorite jokes. Is the one I go back to all the time.
Yeah.
So, Timothy, Laura, Laura, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So Hannah, remember how when we were recording recently, yesterday?
A little peek behind the curtains, everyone. Laura's on vacation this week, so we are
Well, I'm going
recording
on
back to
vacation, so
back.
we're recording two episodes in a row. So I was like trying to save things to talk about,
I'm the
but
same.
this this isn't actually that hard to save because I read 18 volumes of a manga series. I like absolutely binged it. So I
Since
got
yesterday, or like
not since
just you had say,
yesterday.
okay, I was gonna
Not
say,
since
oh my
yesterday.
goodness.
Yes, since yesterday. I'm preparing for vacation by reading 18 thought. No, it wasn't since yesterday. Like in July. So my brain has just like not been wanting to accept anything in besides like short stories and manga and graphic novels. It's just like very hard for me to read at the moment. But
Oh,
I discovered this manga series, A Side Character's Love Story by Akane
ooh,
Tamura. Hannah, I am
that sounds
obsessed.
good.
I am obsessed.
Oh,
It's just like a slice of life story about a girl named Nobuko who works at a grocery store. She's in her 20s, she's going to college, and she starts to develop a little crushy crush on one
ooh.
of her co-workers, and they end up, kind of developing a relationship and then actually developing a relationship. And it's honestly the sweetest, kindest series where not much happens, but I'm just completely sucked into their story. And I was just like, devouring these volumes. I would finish one and be like, I need to know more. And it's like, what
Oh.
happened in the last one? They just went on a single date to a zoo and that was it. I think one of the later volumes, maybe it was 16 or 17, I did write a review instead of just like giving the rating of 4 or 5 stars because these were all just 4 or 5 stars to me because
Yeah,
the relationships and the way that they all treat each other within this series, it's incredibly kind and the communication skills are next level. Like
that's
we
so
need to be
nice.
using this to teach children how to communicate with others in a relationship because they're talking about things like consent and like do you feel comfortable holding my hand? Is it okay if I kiss you? Like talking about how their relationship will develop going into the future and everything. And I guess some people could be like, oh, it's super old school, which it's a traditional hetero couple and
Hmm.
they are, going about, I would say, a traditional hetero relationship. But I do think it's unique in the way that we see a character who kind of considers herself to not be like the pretty girl that everybody notices. And it's never said that, but I think we as readers can assume that that's what the main character of Nabucco is supposed to be, is this
Right.
character that like not a lot of people are paying attention to. And it's so neat to see this character become more confident in herself and not only just like actually ask out a guy that she has a crush on,
Which is
but
so hard to do. Like,
yes,
good for them for that's so hard. I
but
don't
to
know why.
also like develop a relationship and make friends and then stand up for herself as she
Mhm.
goes through different changes in her life and be like, yeah, like something hard happened. Like I was supposed to take this test because I was hoping to be able to get a job closer to you, but it didn't work out. So now I'm going to have to do this. And now that I'm here, I actually kind of like it. And I don't know that I
Mm,
want to leave. So we're going to have
yeah.
to navigate our relationship this way. And to see like such positive male characters too is really
Mm.
nice because like the main love interest, Irie-kun, he is so kind and compassionate and just considerate of all the other characters, not even just his love interest. He is helpful and kind to all the other people working at the grocery store. He's
Oh,
very observant of the people who come in and are shopping at the store and everything. It's just a phenomenal series where literally not much happens, but I am so into it. I just
okay.
could not tear my eyes away from the series, and I just kept, as soon as I would finish a volume, be like, need to start the next one. I was reading like two and three a day because I would just come home and be like, I have to read this. I have to read this.
Oh,
It's just
good.
consuming, and I read all of the volumes I could get my hands on. I don't think that there are any more volumes out, honestly. I think that I've read all of the volumes that are currently out.
You have exhausted
Yeah, I
your.
have. All of the volumes that are out in English, I have read. So
Oh,
I either have to learn Japanese to read volume 19 or maybe just wait a few months.
I mean, could be your time to learn Japanese, Laura. You're
I've got too
struggling.
much going on with
You're
Duolingo, honestly. I'm struggling to learn German. And but I'm doing quite well on Duolingo and Spanish. So
oh, good.
there's that. But yeah, Japanese is too much. But I think I'll just have to wait. But honestly, this may be like a new favorite manga series. Like
Oh,
I think Witch Hat
good.
Atelier is my all-time favorite that I've read so far. Like that one, I don't know that anything comes close to Witch Hat Atelier at the moment, but this one is my second favorite. Like of the ones without like a fantastical thing happening that I've read, this is my favorite of the manga series that I've
Oh,
read. Just
good.
like a slice of life, relationship, a romance. Like I am so absorbed. And Nobuku is such a perfect character. And I love seeing how the art changes as they grow too, where their hairstyles change, but also the changes in their face and facial features
Oh,
is really unique because even though we're going from just like a matter of like 2 years throughout these
yeah.
18 volumes, we're seeing subtle changes in the way that these characters look and they're becoming more mature. And it's so beautiful to kind of see the changes in their faces and the clothing and how not only are they changing physically, but the world around them is changing and the
Yeah.
situations are changing. So it's very much a coming of age story of this young woman who is really just coming into herself and becoming so beautiful and is so and was already so beautiful, but is so beautiful and kind and is really just putting a lot of kindness out into the world that she's in. And I'm obsessed with this series. Like there's no reason for me to be as obsessed as I am with this series, but I adore it.
I
I
mean,
was
sometimes it
honestly
just hits you
considering just
right.
buying the physical copies because I'm like, I just love this so much. It's something that I'm positive I would read again, and it's just perfect. I love it so much.
Oh, good. I love it when you have like a moment where you're like, nope, this one speaks to me. I
I
just
know.
like it. Yeah.
I can't explain why beyond just like the way that these characters are just so kind and communicate so well, like incredibly unique. Usually
Yeah.
romances, it's like, uh-oh, here comes a miscommunication that we've got to work through. And they're absolutely ridiculous. Sorry, romance writers, your miscommunications are usually ridiculous. This has, and the volumes are short in this, so it's easy to make quick changes, I think. And you're
Hmm.
also getting to see facial expressions, so that helps
That
in
does help.
situations. And this is also manga series are also usually stretched out over a long period of time, so we do get that as well, so that there's more time to work with. However, the way that this has already had several situations where like, uh-oh, this could be a bad news bears development, that their relationship could be on the rocks. And then the way that they have to navigate through it, like, oh, yes, we're going to have to go long distance. And
Mm.
the way that they work through things, or like, yeah, my career path had to change, or whatever, it's fantastic. And yeah, the author Tamura gets all the credit in the world. Absolutely adore this series. Side characters love story, beautiful manga. I don't know if there's an anime of it. I kind of hope not because it's just so perfect as it is. Don't ruin it. Oh,
That's
so good.
amazing.
Hannah, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I read, um, I am about 15 minutes from finishing the Percy Jackson series. So I would say that that is done. It was a really good ending. It's
I
so,
love
I mean,
those.
obviously it's a middle grade book. So the entire time I'm like,
Who
well, this
cares? They're
is the ending.
fantastic.
No, I know that's not, but like, I would say like, nothing shocked
That
me
you,
with the ending
oh,
where I'm
well,
like,
I
oh
would hope
yeah,
not.
like 2 chapters in, I'm like, oh, so this is how it ends. And then you're just listening to Percy be like, what could it mean? And I'm like, the most obvious thing in the world. And I'm like, well, this is a
Yeah,
book series for children. So
yeah,
that's on no one. But I do like that like Rick Riordan chose like not the unique path for these book series. Like I think it would have been easy to go down the typical journey of, the hero's journey and like Percy is the most important person who ever personed. And it's like, no, this is like teaching children about like what it means to maybe be not seen by your parents and like
right.
how to try to find your own identity in the world and how like you don't have to be the main character to finish the series. And I was like I really liked all of that. I thought it was really well done and really effective. um
I also think too, just like for its time, it was doing a lot of things that were almost unheard of. Like this came out
yeah,
in 2005, The Lightning Thief did. So the first book. So these were like mid 2000s, early 2000s. And a lot of the things like you're talking about, like we would typically not see too much in books or other media. Like we
right,
wouldn't see too much of like, and also the show that just came out, I think even improves upon a lot of the
yes,
things that the book already had kind of laid the groundwork for. But I I do think like the whole way that Percy is almost encouraged to work through his emotions and how
hmm,
he's able to communicate with his parents, how he has a unique parental situation, and
yeah,
how he's also just like kind of learning about himself and that he's different and he thinks differently and it's not a bad thing. It
no,
even though other people have told him this. And I think that's just really unique for a series of that time.
I would agree. And I also really appreciated that like um just the various characters and the different character journeys you see, like people have different influences. I will say the one thing that made me laugh a little and like obviously this is bare minimum or like the minimal of critique is for a book of 2009, like it's aggressively heterosexual in these 15
Oh
year
yeah.
olds yeah, like,
I
where
like
everyone
it
has a
does
crush on
push
everyone.
relationships a lot. Like, and this series is not without flaws. There are a
No.
lot of things, and the author himself has been open about like, yeah,
Yes.
I was bad about that. But I think that he's doing so much work to try and improve upon his own like Percy Jackson universe that you don't
Yeah.
see other authors doing as much of this when they've got a really popular series like this, especially when they're like middle grade authors that have this kind of limelight. I'm just kind of impressed by him to like, thank you, white man, for taking
Doing
your
the bare minimum.
for taking your privilege and using it for good. We
Yeah.
thank you for that, Rick Riordan. Like, thank you for learning and unlearning. We appreciate you.
Yes. And so, but like, there was one moment where, not to spoil anything, but like, there's a character who was like, "Did you love me?" And then they're like, "I think of you like a brother, but I don't love you." And I'm like, let's teach children that there are various types of love, and it's not just
Yeah.
heterosexual, like romantic love. But that's like really the only critique I could think of these books. And
And
the
other
battle
series, I
scene.
think,
Oh,
also do have more diversity too that he's
yes.
worked into the series. So
Yeah,
just this first one.
post haste he's like
Yeah.
made sure to
Hmm.
not just like leave it on the cutting room floor and like, oh no, Annabeth has to be a blonde curly haired girl because you want to
Right.
know who doesn't have enough representation in media? Blonde curly haired girls.
Exactly.
um so like props to him for making the changes as time goes on. I was just like, that was the one thing where I was like rolling my eyes a little bit. And the battle scenes were so long in this book. I was like, man, to be a kid who was like, I have to read through this, but this is just me with my peccadillo of not loving battle scenes, where I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bored. Can we like get to the end? But I enjoyed it, 5 stars. I think this is a great series. I think it's a
Yeah.
great middle grade series.
So I finished that one in 2021 because I was reading along with Mike Schubert's podcast, The Newest Olympian,
Okay.
and I just zoomed past where he was at.
Oh yeah, I'm
But
sure.
I just like I can't wait for you to get to this point in the books. But so I I think the one that I rated the highest was the fourth one was the one that I rated the highest.
Okay. I
Actually,
know
I
that
rated
that's
book four and five stars, but I
okay.
think the fourth one was the one that I liked the most. Did
I
you
think
have
I've
one that was like a favorite?
I think I gave 4 5 stars. I the what I gave I gave almost all of them 5 stars just because I'm like, yeah, because
Hmm.
I'm grading them on the curve of like these are for children.
Sure.
Um, but I think if I had to pick a favorite, I'm trying to remember what happened in every single one of them. I really liked the third one where Annabeth goes missing. I thought that one was slight spoilers to this adult podcast.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
really liked that one
Titan's
because it was
Curse.
like it was a good one of like I thought it was the most personal growth for Percy where he like wasn't supposed to be part of the journey and he kind of had to
And
learn
also
to
he's
like
like
play well with
challenged by
others.
the other characters.
hmm And so I really liked that. I really liked the Battle of the Labyrinth for what it did for the story overall, where it like
Yeah.
pushed us towards the end and it had a lot of the buildup.
Hmm.
And then I would say that my least favorites were probably 1 and 5, just because again, the battle scenes in 5 took far too long.
I think the first one was my least favorite also. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people love number two, and number two was very cute because of Tyson, but
Yes.
I think it was just maybe too cutesy for me and didn't have as much of the growth that you see in the other books.
A lot of these books are not totally meant like they're meant for kids to grow as they read them, like because these
And you
are
could see
middle
that
grade
too
books.
because
Yeah.
Percy's growing, so
Yes. And so I do appreciate that where like Rick Riordan is like, yeah, these kids are probably not going to like binge these in a week. Like they're going to
sure.
be reading
Well,
them
and
over the
also they
course of
came
a
out
year or
2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009. So yeah, people had a year to read each one
yes.
before the next came.
So I think that that makes sense. But yeah, that was my only slight things. And then for what else I've been reading, something I held back on talking about because we did
Yes.
record back to back.
Yes.
I read Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. This is her third book, and it is well, not her third book overall, but like her third mainstream one that like hit big, because she
Hmm.
wrote Little Fires Everywhere as well as Everything I Never Told You.
Hmm.
And I have read all three of these books.
I read
Um,
Little Fires Everywhere. It
yeah,
was meh.
yeah, I would say I enjoyed the TV show more than I enjoyed the book of
Okay.
Little Fires Everywhere. I thought they did like a lot more with the TV show than they did with the book. I really liked Everything I Never Told You, which is like her first big book that hit hard. And that one is like kind of a mystery where a family is devastated when they find out their daughter drowned in a lake, and she can't swim, and it's very much about identity, specifically like Chinese identity, where like you find out that the parents think that this is the perfect girl, she's little miss popular, she gets the best grade, she does everything, and then you find out through the course of the story that none of that is true and she was like
Oh,
putting it on to make her parents happy. And I really loved that book. I thought it was so well done
that's
and
actually
like
really interesting.
yeah, and it was like sandwiched with this mystery of like what happened to her, was there foul play, like all those different types of things. And it's like well known, like was she suicidal, those types of things. And I really
Mhm.
liked Everything I Never Told You. Uh the rest of her books have like they're okay. Little Fires Everywhere, I agree, was meh. Our Missing Hearts, I really liked the idea of it, and I thought it was really good for what it was. So it's almost like an alternative history. It was published in 2022, which I think is very important context, where it's like an alternative history of America that is a little bit dystopian,
Okay.
where there is this law that is passed called the Pact Act, and it stands for, oh my gosh, I forget what it stands for. Um, it stands for like something patriotic American something act, and so the whole purpose of it is to make sure that we are encompassing American ideals, and those who do not encompass American ideals get their children taken away from them. And it is like the story where this child, his mom left the family at some point because she wrote this poem called Our Missing Hearts that like started to be the poem used for this movement of like people trying to fight back against the taking away of children. Mostly Chinese American families had this happen to them. And it's just kind of him like coming to terms with like seeing maybe discovering that his mom is reaching out to him to talk to him again, and like struggling to reach out to her when he lives in a world that has a lot of censorship, but of course
Hmm.
doesn't have censorship because we are Americans and we value that, so it's like it's very much about um
Okay, so I'm just
censorship.
Googling. It's the Preserving American Culture and Traditions
Yes.
Act,
Yes.
and it's
Um
marked by a nationalistic fervor, rampant anti-Asian and anti-Chinese sentiment, and a strict censorship of books or materials that may lead to any unpatriotic ideas.
Yes. And so I thought this book was really good when it was about like this son's journey with his mother, and like something when something is bigger than the family, what does that do to the relationship, do to the personal, and like what does it do to your connection as a mother and as a child who may not have the relationship that you always wanted?
Hmm.
And I also thought it was very interesting in the context of like anti-Asian hatred that was definitely on the rise in 2020, as well as the fact that like we as Americans like to think like we are the land of the free, but we do take children away from each other, from their parents at the border, and kind of pretend
Hmm.
that it doesn't happen and isn't
Yeah.
continuing to happen. Um, and we like to just pretend that we're better than that, and we're not. Like that happens every day. And so I
Can
thought
I
that was really
just
interesting.
can I
Yeah.
just read this quote from the author that it says, while the this is an NBC News article. You can just Google Celeste Ng, and this is the first thing that comes up, literally. While the book has been described as dystopian and said that she barely sees it that way, there's but a thin veil of fiction separating the racism, book bans, and family separation in the novel from reality. And then the story takes on the contours of the political climate that arose with Donald Trump's election. And
Hmm.
Pact represents some of the ideas that have been simmering under the surface. And then she goes on to say that a lot of the book is about the idea of seeing other people's problems as being your problems, not just something that happens to other people. And the idea of it being our missing hearts is a collective issue we're going to have to work together to solve. It's not a problem that just one person can magically lead the resistance and overcome. That's actually like a really deep quote. Like
Yeah.
this sounds like a super deep book that I do think is very timely.
It's very timely. I will say my one thing, and I rated it 4.25 stars. This is not me saying that I didn't like this book, that I
Sure,
didn't
sure.
think it
No,
was
that's
very
a good rating.
prescient. Yeah, like it's a very good rating. It lost the 0.75 mostly because it felt like this is an author who wanted to write about her own personal experience, which is also very valuable. But in focusing on the Chinese American experience, it felt like other marginalized groups were kind of left to the side.
Yeah.
Um, Specifically, Mexican Americans who deal with this most prevalently with children
Hmm.
being taken away, and
Or South Americans
or
and
South Americans.
Middle
Yes,
America,
yes, sorry, Central America,
Central
South
America, and South
America,
America.
those countries where this happens to affect the most
Hmm.
people, in today's day and age, those people, those types of, ethnicities or backgrounds
Hmm.
were not really featured at all in this book.
Well,
Um, Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
because it was mostly about like Chinese American hatred and those types of things,
And
like the
again,
hatred of China and
that
like
was very prevalent in the
in
midst of the height
yes.
of COVID.
So I'm not saying that like it's not valuable, but I just felt like there could have been more of a focus on like, and this has also happened to other people. It just in this book happened to start happening to Chinese American people and then
Mhm.
like got
Yes.
ramped up because of, hatred towards China and all of these
Mhm,
different
mhm.
types of things. And they do mention Black people and like all the things that happen to Black people. And like you find out that there's censorship and um taking away the history of slavery because it is seen as anti-American to talk about its own bad history, so they do
Mhm.
touch on those
Which
things.
timely.
Yes. And so like those things were touched upon, but it also didn't feel like there was a lot of talk about like a lot of the people who are trying to assist Chinese Americans were in fact a lot of people of like Black people specifically,
Mhm.
and it felt like they were all
Which
there
also
with.
feels like accurate, but
Yes, it feels accurate, but it didn't seem to shine a light on the fact of like why Black people would be more inclined to help
mhm.
others when those things happen. It just like it felt like,
Yeah.
oh well, they happen to be Black, and I'm like, no, 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 no. It feels like they're Black for very, very important reasons, and like
Mhm.
I wish those had been touched upon more. That is not to say that this is not an excellent book. Um, it
I
is
wonder
just
if it's
like
one of those things where it's like the author had the intentions, and sometimes either things don't make it to the final cut of the book, or there's just like creative choices that are made that
mhm.
leave some of these things out and kind of at times leave readers kind of being like, yes, yes, yes. And
Yes, that's exactly how I felt, where I was like, yes, 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 yes. And like, and
Mhm.
I think that it's it's also unfair because then it's looking at a book like this and being like, well, Celeste Ng shouldn't have to have all the things in these books,
Exactly. And that's another thing too. We can't put the weight of all of these problems on this one author's shoulders to be like, write about all of this. Thank you.
Right. And so I don't want to say she has to, but I wish there had been some kind of focus on like, well, this has happened
Sure.
historically and in this timeline that she created, it started affecting Chinese Americans more
Hmm.
because of this crisis that happened because of their blame and hatred towards China. Like it made sense. I just wish
Yeah.
it's like when you read Margaret Atwood and you're like, well, this sounds like it is a dystopian for white women, not
Hmm.
specifically women, so things like that
Yeah.
I
I absolutely
noticed.
get what you're saying.
But definitely a great book. Um, and then for watching, Laura, you and I both watched uh Escaping Twin
Oh
Flames.
my gosh, Hannah. I forgot about that. I was sick the other day, and so I watched that in between like Olympics binges and watching Planet of the Apes. What a weird documentary.
So I had actually watched the first episode twice. And so when I brought up
Oh
like
my.
Escaping Twin Flames to Laura, I had watched the first episode twice and then not proceeded to the next episodes. And then Laura was like, "Wow, I watched it. I was a little bit worried about something." And you said like, "I thought they handled it relatively
Mhm.
well, but it's still a little bit dangerous
They
to like."
addressed it, but I
Yes.
I do think it's still leaving
S-
it a little bit
So
too.
this is about a cult read by Shalia and Jeff Devine
Which Jeff
who
I could just punch in the face. I
he's
can't
disgusting.
stand that man.
He's the
So
worst.
throughout this documentary, what they're doing is they're kind of describing this twin flames cult, which essentially people are joining because unfortunately they are very lonely and they're trying to find their twin flame, which is like your soulmate essentially. The yin to your yang is
Hmm.
what people are looking for. And they join this trying to find their twin flame and these people, this Jeff and Shalia, which I don't believe those are their real names. They changed their names, correct?
Shalia definitely changed her name. I cannot remember if Jeff changed his name because
And they are a weird couple. But
yeah.
they basically run this as like almost a MLM
Hmm.
where they're trying to sell people on the idea of having a twin flame. And then they literally do bring in MLM situations to this where they're
Yes.
trying to sell nutrition advice and sell like different products to people. And then they form a religion. And that's where it gets even weirder.
Well, because it seems like Jeff is someone who was a grifter from the beginning. Like it seemed
Yeah.
like he was always obsessed with making money. He was always obsessed with like getting people to be on his side for things.
And he also
Um,
is an extreme misogynist, sexist. You can tell because they're showing throughout this documentary videos of them coaching others, which are just horrendous.
and like the interesting thing about this documentary was a former member had all of the materials like ever published. So they like pulled them before Jeff and Shalia could pull some videos offline that didn't show
Hmm.
them in the best light, or like things that were behind a paywall once you had already bought into this type of thing. And so that
Hmm.
was the interesting part, was we're listening to a lot of like actual footage of these two people trying to coach people, and it's
And the
bad.
testimony too from some of the people, like the one girl that you're talking about, she was kind of one of the higher ups. She was the CEO of Twin
Yeah.
Flames organization at one point.
And she had like it's a very dangerous one, where because they're like, well, it's your twin flame, so you're meant to be, if you found your twin flame, so you get to do anything you want to in the name of love. And so
Hmm.
like at one point they convinced this woman that she should stalk her ex
Well, because
because he is her
they
twin flame. Yeah.
exactly they were twin flames, and then he decided like, no, I this is strange. I don't want to be in this anymore, so I'm going to leave. They encouraged her to, like you said, stalk him,
Hmm.
and he had to be like, please stop, and then eventually, I believe, press charges.
Yes, no, she got arrested for it. And so it's just very very, and then like as they go on, as these people are still looking for their twin flame and not finding them and they're feeling more isolated, they start to do, which is where it kind of makes a switch into where Laura and I were like, well, I was interested in like all of this stuff, and be careful what you're talking about, because they
Hmm.
started to try to isolate the group even more and start saying like, well, now your twin flame must be a part of the group already. So
And
like,
they had
and
previously been subscribing to like very hetero rules, and then it became very much like I don't even know, I wouldn't say very much, but they started encouraging LGBTQ relationships, but then they started to encourage people to transition,
yes,
and that's where it gets, this documentary's portrayal gets sticky to me, because I feel like the portrayal in the show was that many of the people who were involved in Twin Flames were essentially coerced to transition.
yes, and
And it seemingly they didn't want to.
I think they did. I mean, I thought it was
Some of
relatively
them did not want to because they're like that one person, what's her name? Angie,
yes.
was told and told repeatedly that she was supposed to be like a divine male or whatever. Divine
Hmm.
male and divine female was the way that they were trying to set up these relationships, because there was even like a lesbian couple who was told, well, you're the divine male and you're the divine female, and they were encouraged to still pursue like heteronormative identities, which is not
And that's, well, it's
correct.
because it's being run by a misogynist. So like
Yeah.
it's anti-LGBTQ, because it's not believing that like there are different types of relationships other than ones that are deeply rooted in heterosexuality.
Yes.
And like if you have a same-sex couple, one must be a man and one must be a woman. And it is incredibly binary in the way it views gender. And so, because it has this binary view, then if you have a same sex couple who are meant to be together, then in fact, one of them should be transitioning.
Hmm.
And it also seemed rather coded in who they believed had more like masculine features, or
Yes.
like they kind of were like, well, this person has masculine energy. And if you ever looked at a couple before one of them was forced to transition, you could usually pick out which one they were going to
Yeah.
choose as the divine masculine. And they were usually the ones who did not adhere
Taller,
to as
bigger
many
framed, like
female, yeah, genders like stereotypes, and they
people who
usually
dressed
picked those.
plainer,
Hmm.
like
And so it was just very interesting to see that type of thing. And like they did have a trans like activist who spoke, who was like,
Yes.
this is force,
Well,
like this is it.
I think this was a professor. I don't
Yeah, it
even
was
know
a
if it was,
professor. Yeah, no, yeah,
yeah.
you're right. It was a professor. And the professor was like, this is incredibly, that's not what the trans community believes in. Like the way people are talking, like 'cause they were listening to testimonials and things like that. And they were like, well, the way they're talking, this is like saying, well, this is the way the world needs me to, or like this is, and they were like, it's not about like finding yourself. It's about how you're supposed to represent to like do something else. And that's not what
Mhm.
we're about. This is about like being your full self. And it feels like they're just trying to like find the right way to get what they want in this world. And it's not quite right.
Mhm.
Um, but it's also hard because this is a documentary that's coming out in 2023 when people are not as willing to have difficult conversations about like people who are transgender or understand like why it might be dangerous to force someone to
Yes.
transition who's not willing while still believing that there are people who rightfully want to transition, and many of those people could still have been people who wanted to
Yes.
transition.
And that's the thing too. It's hard to know when it's a cult situation because what they showed, the testimonials that they got from people they were people who did not want to transition and were
Yes.
kind of being forced into this and were very regretful that they had even, you know, went down this path. And then they had to, show that, oh, they showed statistics and said like very few people actually regret this.
Hmm.
And I thought that was helpful context. And also, it was helpful to have the professor talk during the
Yes.
documentary because otherwise, like you said, this is just like a very, kind of a bad time to release an entire
Yes.
episode where that was a main focus.
Hmm.
And the other thing too, like there's obviously a lot of other things that they could have brought up in that documentary that were clearly going down that they didn't choose to bring up. Like there was purchases of land that they were going to create something, like a farm and try to profit off of it and everything. And there's all the like the financial issues that were
Hmm.
well, clearly going on. And then the whole thing where he brings up this picture at one point and he's like, I looked up a picture of Jesus and look, I'm
Oh
holding
my
it next to me. It
gosh.
looks exactly like me. So I am Jesus.
Also,
And then his wife says something like, I'm banging the Christ or something like that. And it's like, you
yeah.
people are weird. This is really strange. And then they start talking about how they're going to have a baby and
Oh
that
gosh,
this baby is going to be like the perfect baby and will never need a twin flame because
it will be there
God
to
will
yeah,
God will be
like
the twin flame
no,
to this
it was
baby.
they're a trifecta. It was
Oh,
the
I
mom
thought, oh
and
yeah, that's right,
dad.
because
The mom and
he is
dad are
God.
their
That's right.
complete, like they're a trifecta of perfection. So the baby, and I was like, what a way to tell your child that they can never have sex. Like,
And
could
then they
you
were
imagine?
pursuing IVF just so that they could choose the gender of their
Mhm.
child, which was, and somebody even in the documentary was like, because they showed a clip of them saying like, yeah, we don't have any fertility issues. We just want to be able to
Yeah.
choose that we're having a girl. And then unfortunately, the pregnancy was ectopic.
Yeah.
And she tried to like Shalia and Jeff tried to do a video to talk about that, and she's trying to tell everyone like, yeah, the pregnancy was ectopic. He's talking over her, and she
Yeah.
does stand up for herself at this point and say, no, the doctor told me the pregnancy was ectopic.
Because
And
he
he
tried
kind
to
of
say
rolls
it
his
was
eyes and
something
is like,
else.
he tried to explain it away by being like, yeah, but I'm Christ, so it
It
just
couldn't
was. I
have been
just
that.
chose that it wasn't time for our third twin flame to. It was like, this is
That like she was too pure for this world. And it's just like
yes, that was it.
it's yeah, she was too pure for this world. And this man feels like a caricature of a cult leader because it feels like
Yeah.
he knows he's ridiculous. He just gets away with
hmm
stuff. And
And he
like
talks at one. He like gets really as I'm talking over you, Hannah. He he gets
my twin
really.
flame, Laura, speaking over
It's discipline,
me.
but that's what he says at one point. She
Yeah.
tries to like joke around about something, and he snaps at her, and he says, "I'm not being mean. I'm not being uh I can't remember what it was. He said, I'm not being mean, I'm not being controlling. It's just discipline. I'm disciplining her. And I was just like, this is
because
bizarre.
he's the divine masculine. And like it's a wild ride. And I was not expecting episodes 2 and 3 to go where they went.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
like we talked about, like that was a strange way to go with this one episode considering today's current climate.
yeah.
And I really think there was plenty of things that they could have talked about more.
The fact that
Yes.
their divine place is Michigan.
The, the one clip that really annoyed me was when he was like, not everybody can just have a Porsche right away. And she's like, well, I can, and laughs about it. And I was like, I could slap this woman.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Also, like so I was watching it. My sister-in-law was like in the room with me, and I was like watching episodes of 2 and 3 after, so she was coming in late. And she didn't have her glasses on, so she couldn't see the TV screen. And so she kept going, are these like the same people? And she's like, because they have wildly different hair at all moments in time. Because their
yeah.
hair takes some wild swings. Also, there's a moment where Shalia, like, and this is me being my most petty on our review of this random documentary that no one else has probably watched who's listening to this podcast. But there's one moment where Shalia is talking about like the godliness of everyone else, and she is wearing like pale blue lipstick. And I'm like, imagine being
She really like a step back in time though, because she's wearing like the infinity scarves and stuff. And
yeah. And I'm just like, imagine having the audacity to tell people how to live in Christ with ice blue lipstick on.
yeah,
What a swing, ma'am.
but
Um,
at least she's got a Porsche.
but at least she has a Porsche. And like they were obviously embezzling a lot of money, and uh, it's all an MLM, and they
Yeah.
were like having these incredibly expensive handbags and telling people like they shouldn't have to be paid because like they're benefiting so much from being near these two.
Hmm.
And I don't
It was all
I
bizarre.
it was very bizarre. So we both watched Escaping Twin Flames.
It was a documentary.
It was not as good as the Murdaugh murders, which we talked about.
Agreed. Honestly, like, you're really talking me into that one now. I didn't think I liked that one either, but
Oh, you
you're
didn't think you
talking me
liked
into it.
that one? I liked
No,
that
I
one. I
just
thought
really could not stand the people.
oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fair.
They just really rubbed me the wrong way. But these people in Twin Flames rub me even worse.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. So that was one thing I watched, and then I started rewatching season 1 of Umbrella Academy, and 10 out of 10, no notes. I love that show more and more every
That
time I see it.
show, the last season comes out
I
in just a
know,
few days. I'm so sad.
I can't believe it's the final season. It's very, very sad. Season 1 was just
Hmm.
like perfection, except I said like,
Honestly, I love all of the seasons of that show.
except the worst thing is like, don't make Elliot Page have to date a man in that series because like
I
you
forgot
could
about that.
tell he did not want to.
That was in the first
It
season, right?
was in the first season because it was
Yeah.
like before he transitioned. And I was like, well, he was ready by the time that show aired. If you look
Hmm.
at like the way he's acting, I was like, oh no, he knew. So um what a wild time to watch him try to date that strange, strange man named Leonard.
Oh gosh, I forgot all about. I should just rewatch that since the new season's coming. I'm not gonna rewatch
Exactly.
it because there's not
Uh
enough time, and I'm not gonna be able to hold back. So,
I get it. So, yeah, but my fiance had never seen it, so we were
oh
watching
my
it
gosh,
together while we
what a
were up at the
thrill!
cabin. It was so exciting. I just love that show so much.
It's fantastic.
It's so good. So, and then I
I'm going
watched
to miss them all.
Chinatown for the first time in my life. And I don't get why it's one of the greatest films of all time. I don't think it
I've
makes
never
much
seen that.
sense. At one point, he like someone is trying to escape and then he leads everyone to her. And I'm like, why did you
Hmm.
do that? You knew that this was a dangerous situation and she was trying to escape. Um, so
Yeah,
I
that
don't
seems odd.
recommend it. Uh, yeah. So that's pretty much what I've been reading, watching, and or enjoying. And then I've been playing a lot of Hollow Knight. So beat a boss today and really pushed it to the line of me finishing this book in order to do this recording. So,
Nice,
but I did it, everyone. I did this for you, for the content.
and
I
we
s-
thank you,
I stepped away from being a little Hollow Knight. He's not the Hollow Knight, but I stopped myself and I read the rest of this book. So
and we thank you.
Shall we dive in? A couple episodes ago, I said I really liked that I didn't have to see the godmother in the beginning of this book, and
And
Laura
I
gave me
spoiled
a
it.
look. So guess what? We see the godmother in this section because Harry has to drive out towards Winnetka, out near Northwestern
Mhm.
University. Ever heard of it?
Yes,
He's
I have,
show.
unfortunately, for not the great reasons. Why is my family always sick?
It's also one of my alma maters, so thank you. Um, for not the good degree. So Harry like calls down Leah, and I can never say her name. But she comes down and he's like, "Why did you sell me over to Mab?" And she was like, "Well, I took something that was too powerful." And it was like the scythe that she had in the last book
Hmm.
from the Red Court. And so she was like, "So I was too powerful and I had to like hand over something. And so she wanted you." And he's like, "Wow, you really fed me to the woods, godmother. It's like you don't care about me at all." And I'm like, Harry, she's been trying to murder you or turn you into a dog for books. So why do you care? But apparently he does, Laura. It's really important. So she is like, "Well, I have been helping you. I was the person who was yelling the homophobic slurs at you."
Which is so bizarre. She
There
was the
are
downstairs neighbor. Like,
at Rule's
remember,
house.
like, I had a note earlier and I was like, there's a woman downstairs who's like yelling at them. This is weird. And then she's like, I was there. It was
It
me.
was me. And it's like, there are
I was the
so
neighbor. Like,
many ways to do
weird.
this. You didn't have to do it that way. Like, it
Why did you
never,
have to yell at all? Like, just
yeah.
be there and spy. Don't.
And she was also the sound of police sirens earlier that night. And I'm like,
Okay. Like,
okay.
whatever happened to just like creeping on people like
She is
Joe
supposed
Gold
to,
Joel Goldberg style from you?
but she is
Like,
also supposed to be all powerful, and the most she could do is be like, wee, wee, wee.
but really?
What are you
Come on.
doing?
Leah.
Leah, be a better stalker. We did not
But then she
condone
does take
stalking.
him to this really cool thing that's like this big stone table in this world between Chicago, like
And then
over
never, never.
Chicago. Like, I think
Yeah.
this is so cool,
It's like a spirit
honestly.
world, and it's like
Yeah,
between that and the never, never, and it's
it
like a
reminded
little
me of
bit.
the world between worlds in Star Wars a little bit.
I don't know what that is. But it's crafted from like clouds and mist. And the stone table is where like the power gets transferred over from winter to summer.
Hmm.
And she thinks that like something's coming when they have to like hand it over to summer or hand it over to winter, where like that's why the uh winter or the summer knight was killed to help like change something over so that there's a huge
Well,
power
because
imbalance
yeah,
and it
they
will
can
pretty
see the
much.
power, like how it's moving around, but it's like not summer isn't moving for some reason,
Yeah.
and neither of the queens are making moves, and they're
Mhm.
like a little unsure.
And they don't know what to do. And Harry's like, "Great, but do you like know who did it?" And she's like, "I do not. That's your business." And he's like,
And he's like, you
"Great."
know who I should contact right now who'd be really helpful in this moment? Morgan.
I know. Well, he first like lays in his godmother's lap and we pretend like she's not a predator for him.
I
And
didn't. I
she's
had
like,
left that
"I
purposely out of
will
my brain.
help you. I will help you in any way I can." And then his car dies. So he goes home and he's like, "Look, I'm in over my head. I'm gonna do what the White Council always says I don't do, which is call in a favor." And then Morgan, whose characterization is lost on me, is like, "I had a friend who died at that one place that the Red Court attacked everyone. So you're on your own. I'm not going to tell anyone anything. I'll let the world end.
Here's
It's
the
not
thing.
all
At this
about
point in
you."
the audiobook, Morgan is screaming and is so dumb, but Marsters is also screaming these lines. And when he starts doing it, it scared me literally. I was
Oh,
listening to this and it was just, I jumped because
oh
I was
no.
so like so scared by the change in tone. I was like, oh, Morgan's upset.
Okay. Morgan's
I'm,
upset.
I'm sorry.
Um, I just this one was wild because in book one it's like he's Mr. Rules, and at this book he's like he's Mr. Fuck you, Harry Dresden.
But
Like
at this point, he's just like, I'm so sick of your shit. I'm just, what?
And then he hangs up on Harry, and Harry's like, "Great, I was trying so hard to do the right thing, and I have no idea what to do now." And he has no idea how to contact Ebenezer. He's like, "Well, I could try to get Murphy to call him for me, but I don't know if
Ebenezer's
they'll put her
McCoy,
through."
right?
Yeah, he's McCoy.
Okay.
Um, and so he
Ebenezer
goes,
McCoy.
Ebenezer McCoy, he goes to
It's like
talk
shit,
to
Ebenezer McCoy.
he goes to talk to Elaine, and she's at O'Hare National Airport, and she's like, "How'd you find me?" And Laura had already read this section of the book,
Yes.
so she knew that Elaine was the one who put herself in Harry's car when I thought someone had
Yes.
deposited her there. And
I
here she
badly tried to cover it, and then I was just like, I'm just going to reveal that she did not, in fact, get put there by a villain.
Laura said, "I'm gonna spoil that one for Hannah." And I was like, "Well,
Whoops.
how did she see this coming?"
Look, because when I started out, I was like, Hannah, that doesn't make sense. They told us that she was that she
This
put
is
herself in there trying to get away. And then I was
this
like,
is
oh, and then I
hard.
just couldn't cover it.
This harkens back to our Wheel of Time book 2 reveal where you were like, "Hannah, you kept saying that someone was alive and you didn't know why, but you read about it because you've already read this book."
Yes.
But I covered it up better because I had
I
forgotten what happened in the second
I
book.
forgot what happened in the last third, apparently.
Right? So he's like, "I know that you stole a lug nut, and when you were in trouble, you honed in on my car. So I stole a lug nut from my car, and I used it to hone in on you." Harry's a detective in this novel, guys.
I would never
Um,
notice if a single lug nut was missing. Oh my gosh.
on that piece of crap car. And so he's like, "Why are you running?" And she's like, I gotta get out of ground zero, Harry. I can't be here." And he's like, "You gotta help stand for something. We could figure out who did this, Elaine." This is the voice I use when I'm reading it out loud to Paul for Harry.
Do you have
Um,
lots of lozenges for when you're done?
no, but sometimes I go too deep and then I can't keep it going.
Oh, okay.
So he convinces her to help him. Uh, and a chariot comes to them to like take them to the mothers because
They
Elaine
both have
called
their
in a
amulets
favor. And they go up to where the mothers will be so Harry can meet them. And he says it's
and a
very
big
Baskerville up
unicorn.
there.
A
And
big
the big
unicorn appears,
unicorn,
and it's
and
the
it
best description of a unicorn ever. Like, this is creepy, cool, they're dangerous, and you have to get past them to get to the mothers. And if you keep an image in your head, they'll be attracted to you. And I was like, this is fantastic world building.
and
I
so
love unicorns now.
before Laura hated unicorns, she said
I was
she
really
was
on the fence about unicorns. Now I'm very pro unicorn. This is a
perfect.
pro unicorn podcast.
And so, I don't know. Jury's still out for me. So
We're
I'm
pro. It's a pro. If there's one thing that we can agree on, it's that now we like unicorns.
and so Elaine tries to hold a thought in her head for the unicorn to like keep it distracted while Harry goes by because Harry's like, "You're better at holding thoughts than I
Absolutely, Mr.
am."
Let me pour
Look at the
cold water on
boobs.
myself so I don't have a baby with these fairies.
And so the unicorn is not distracted. And so
No.
it like rushes them and they're fighting, but Harry's able to get away and go talk to the mothers. And I really liked this section. It's like
Hmm.
Mother Winter and Mother Summer, and they're just like two old biddies who are just kind of like
Hmm.
hanging out. And Mother Summer's like, "You'll have to excuse Mother Winter. She can't walk around right now. She's not very strong." And I was like, "Oh, that's adorable."
It was very fairy tale-esque. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, I
I
agree.
appreciated it.
And so Harry kind of asked them like, "What's going on? Who's doing this?" And they were like, "I think you're asking the wrong question. The question is why." And it's like, wow, it's almost like Murphy told you that 100 pages
Ah,
ago.
figure out
Um,
the why. It's all full circle. Jim Butcher is a writer.
that is factual. He is a writer. And so he's like, "Well, how can this stuff be destroyed?" And they're like, "Well, you can't destroy something. The German fellow with the wild hair has told you that." And he's like, "Einstein." And I'm like, "Well, this is just nonsense." But they
I will
kind of,
say though, like the exchange of riddles is a neat thing that happens in this chapter too. Like it's all very fairy tale-esque and very like kind of kooky and creepy a little bit, and I really like it a lot. It gave me a lot of like Pan's Labyrinth, but
oh yeah, that's fair.
cutesier vibes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Harry kind of like deduces that this, like, it's not one of the queens who did it, so it's probably Maeve or
Aurora.
Aurora. But he also finds out that when a knight dies, the power reverts back to the person, to like one of the summer people,
Bounces off of
and
me and
then
it goes
and
back to
then
you.
they choose the knight, which means that there's Aurora might be behind it all.
Hmm.
Um, and so Harry's like, "Is there a way to stop the war?" And they're like, "I'm not sure, but I am going to give you this little undoing power to figure it out." Um, and so Harry leaves, and on his
But
way
he
back,
mentions the unicorn and they're like, what unicorn?
oh yeah, I forgot. And he's like, "Uh-oh, that's not good."
And
Um,
then Grum's back.
yeah, and so he he goes back and he's attacked by Grum, and he has Mother Winter's unraveling. And so,
And the centaur and Talus are there.
well,
Like, oh
Aurora
gosh.
shows up and he's like, "Well, Grum and the unicorn are just your lackeys." And
They're
so they turn,
glamours,
yeah.
basically.
And so they turn back into the centaur and Talus. And Aurora's
Hmm.
like, "How did you figure it out?" Which is the voice I used for Aurora. And he's like, "Well," and he kind of like
And
gives
Elaine
the,
Tricond.
yeah, exactly. Similar energies, let's face
Queen
it.
of Andor.
Lady of Summer. With my golden hair, I'm going to tell Rand what to do. Um, I asked Paul if James Marsters was better at me than at doing the audiobooks, and he did say, "You told me not to lie to you, so yes."
I am very hooked on the James Marster
I haven't,
audiobooks where now I'm at the point where I'm like, well, there is an ebook copy available,
but I want to
but I have
listen
to
to
wait
him.
for the audiobook.
That's fair. And so he is kind of like, well, um, he kind of tells her, he gives her a rundown of what's going on, where he was like, "You hit the knight and Lily, and you made her a stone statue in your garden because then she's hiding in plain sight. And you want to kill the summer night, like, and put their blood on the table so that it like overpowers winter and brings about the end of all things." And Aurora kind of has like, again, I don't know why we're bringing up Wheel of Time so much, but she has Wheel of Time energy of like, "I want to break the world because there's so much pain and I
I
can."
mean, I feel like that these are accurate references, but
Yeah. Like, no, but that's, it's just, it's hitting very Wheel of Time fairy tale esque things.
mhm.
And so she wants to break the world. And he was like, "Oh, and Slate is the one who killed Rule because you helped him do it. And the Winter Knight helped her because he wants to fuck over Maeve because she
Yep.
is a bitch." Pretty much.
Hmm.
Like, he's just like,
I
"I
mean, there
don't."
that's it. Basically,
Yeah.
they just don't like her.
Yeah, and they're like, "Well, we just want to end the world. We want all the suffering to stop." And she's like, "Well, now I have to murder you, Harry, because you know too much and I can't let you
Unfortunately,
survive."
now you figured it out,
Oh my gosh. "Well, Harry, I
and
must kill
now
you.
you must die.
Goodbye, Mr. Dresden." And so they kind of have him like in this circle and they're about to kill him when Elaine is like, "Hey, he is going to put a naming curse on you if you break that circle, and he's going to take you down with him."
Well, because it's
Um,
one of those deals where it's like if the circle drops or he has like any way to break through it, he can use magic, but he has to like wait all this time.
Yes. And he has to wait until the circle is dropped so he could use it. But like that is like the deepest power a wizard can have. And it's pretty much like committing suicide, but bringing someone
Hmm.
out of it with you. And he thinks like Aurora is worth it. And so Elaine is like, "Well, just we'll just arrange for his death. I'll have it up so when we all walk away, he'll still die. Because Aurora's power is mostly controlled to where she is, so she can't be the one who does it."
And he was
And
all mad. He's like, "Damn you, Elaine!" But then she gives him a little clue
she
and is
goes,
like,
"It's
"It's
just like
just like
old
old times."
times." And we
And he
find
was
out
like,
that they doubled up on their
"Just
work as children. And he knows how to break the bond that she had, but he has
yep."
to like pretty much be close to dying before he could do it.
Hmm.
Um, And so he is able to get out, and then the gatekeeper shows up and he's like,
He
I've
helps
been
him.
watching you. And he asks him, he's like, well, you figured out who did it. That was the end of your trial, technically. So are you done? Or are you going to go help everyone? And Harry's like, dang it. I'm just too good of a guy.
I can't let these people suffer.
I just
But at
can't
first, I
quit.
gotta head home and change into a funny t-shirt.
But the gatekeeper is like, I'm glad you said that because I would have killed you had you not done it. And Harry's like, are
I
you
forgot that he said
serious?
that.
And he's like, really? And the guy's like, yeah, like you would have been too dangerous. And you just don't like, why would you just leave the world to end? Because it's none of your business. I don't trust people who do that. And he's like, so I will vote on your side, Harry Dresden. And Harry's like, thanks, I guess. And then he's like, here is some liquid to put on your eyes so you don't have to use your third sight so much and you can give powers to other people, your posse,
Mhm.
maybe. I don't know. And he also gives him one other thing. I forget what it is, but he's just like, and Harry's like, isn't this sort of, oh, he gives him the way to get to the table again.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh, this is how you'll do it. And Harry's like,
Mhm.
isn't this the White Council affecting what the fairies do? And didn't you guys say that you weren't supposed to do that? The gatekeeper's kind of like, details,
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 details.
Harry. So then Harry gets in his old military black style boots,
He's in all black for
but
whatever
with
reason,
a
except for
black
that.
cap with a Coca-Cola emblem on it.
But also, he's got his naked Susan Duster jacket
Oh
on,
my
so
God.
there's
Well,
that.
because he loves her. And so all of the werewolves are coming, and
The
so is
alphas and Billy are
Meryl and
back.
Fix. Meryl and Fix are coming with him, and he's like,
Can I
look,
just say when he says, I hope I'm not leading these young people to a horrible death, I did a major eye roll because I was like, you're 25, sir.
this
You're
is
not
a well, I think
old.
technically now he's 27, but I do think that they're all 21-year-olds. And I'm like, this is just like a senior in college being like, I'm gonna take you guys under my wing. It's like, you guys are so
Guys,
youthful. I've never had a real job in my life.
Harry.
So Harry's just like, same rules as before, guys. I'm in charge. We're gonna go get him.
Yeah,
And
and they
he
have this
like,
cool thing that's like a gray stone that directs
yeah.
them towards the lake and then like up into the clouds. And they're like, there's lightning up there. He's like, that's where we're headed. I'm like, yay.
So they start heading to the final showdown, but then
Final
Meryl, I
countdown.
don't know why I keep calling her Merle. Meryl is shot. And Harry
Mhm.
is like, no. And we find out that who did it? Bum. Ace, the other changeling.
Yep.
And he did it at the behest of the Red Court. And he does
Mhm.
like the weirdest thing in the world where he was like, you were supposed to come alone, Dresden. And I was like, who said that? Who thought he was coming
This was
alone?
maybe one of the only parts of the book where I was just like, wait a minute, what's
Okay,
going on here?
I'm glad you thought so too, because I was like, well, this is a little messy. Everything else
Yeah.
we had like good plotting.
Everything was
This,
really cohesive up until this point, and I was just like, wait, what? But I do think he does make his way out of this situation fairly well.
yes, they kind of are
He
just
left
like,
a trail for himself and he wrote himself out of it.
and so they're kind of like, Ace, how dare you? We're leaving you behind. And he's like, no.
Oh, he couldn't
And
hear your no, it got too high
oh,
pitched.
I'm sorry.
Still couldn't hear it. Nope, you're too
Wow,
high.
I'm too high with that. That was pretty low. Are you just making me scream no a lot?
No,
Can
I'm
you
not.
actually?
I
Oh, okay.
literally cannot hear you.
So Ace screams no.
Heard the beginning and it
Oh
trailed
my
off.
gosh. That's so sad. Now I feel like you're just
Mhm. I'm
well,
not. I'm
I
not
know,
just telling
but
you to do it.
that could be something that happened. That
It
could be
happens a
something
lot of times actually when you,
scream.
sometimes me too, but when either of us will be like, no, or
Oh yeah,
whatever,
yours also no better.
it lasted a long time, but then it did fizzle out at the end.
Well, okay. Well, you guys know what was happening.
This was
Um
a really weird aside. Sorry, friends.
leave it in. And we also find out that Ace was the one who hired Tigress. So he's the
Hmm.
one who is behind it all. What a random tangent. And then they have to climb up a million stairs because there's no
Yeah.
escalator.
This
Um,
reminded me honestly of Percy Jackson a little bit.
very fair. So they get up there, everyone's preparing for battle, and Harry's like, let me go talk to Mab.
The
And
alphas
he
are all shifting into wolf form. They're like, strip everyone so we can shift.
strip. And then
They
Harry
are
at one
always naked before they
But Harry
shift.
has to like put makeup on one of the girls and she's like covering her body and he's like,
I
I mean,
know.
I've seen it. And I'm like, but you're also a pervert, so maybe she should be
Exactly. They're
covering herself up.
incredibly uncomfortable around this old adult man.
And so they all he kind of tells Mab what happens and she's like, well, we still have to fight them. This really did nothing for me, Harry.
Isn't this the
Like,
ointment he was putting on him though to like
yeah.
protect them? Okay.
Yeah, this is the ointment,
Sorry,
but
I
like
I just was thinking of that.
yeah, he has to go like tell Mab it's very cold there. There's ice all over his hair. And then they go into the final showdown and
Mhm.
everyone starts fighting.
There's
And
ghouls, there's wolves, everybody's getting
I
hurt.
do love this though
Meryl and
because
Ace are fighting.
as Harry is about to run into the fray, he goes, I figured it was worth a shot. What the hell? I don't believe in fairies. Which I did laugh
And then they
at.
say like, okay, Peter Pan. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and so everyone's fighting. He's fighting Talos. He's taking people down.
mhm.
Fix is bringing down the winter night.
My
Um,
note says chaos, absolute chaos, creatures
yes.
everywhere. They
Mm.
keep pushing through.
And so Harry's close to getting to the table, but then
And also there's
Aurora.
like bees. Like
Yeah, there's bees. Yeah, they're
that
taking
was
out
just
bees.
scary.
Look, that happened to be in Hollow Knight just 10 minutes ago, and it's real scary,
Horses
guys.
flying through the mist and
Oh yeah, and this is really smart because Harry's like, well, I can't take out fairies with my power, but I can take out their horses, and he just like
smart.
trips all the horses.
Bigger target.
Um, and so he's about to get to the table for like the
But
final.
also like these horses, like Slate is leading them and he's like maniacally laughing. Leading them in, and I'm just picturing like this creepy guy like riding horse and leading all these other people just like like that
Okay,
would be enough to stop me. I would be
so
stopped in my tracks if I saw that creepo.
Aurora pulls like this was in my own personal notes. I was like, wow, what a sleeping beauty trope Aurora is right now because she creates a field of thorns and they're
Hmm.
poisonous and Harry has to
Hmm.
get through them. And Elaine comes running up to him and she's like, "You'll never do it. They're poisonous." And Harry's like, "I gotta get through, Elaine. It's me against the world. I can't
Hmm.
see it end this way." And
It's
so
me against the world always.
um oh, what a stupid day. I that's from Freaky Friday. Me against the world. Just stay out of my
I'm
and in
excited for Freaky
case
Friday
you
too.
didn't notice. Me too. I mean, I think it's gonna be like I get a little sick of the like, well, I fell in love with Chad Michael Murray in high school, so of course we're gonna have to end up together in this future. And it's like, well,
Okay,
you
but
don't
Mark
have to.
Harmon's back, so
Oh, that's
who even
fair.
cares about Chad Michael Murray?
Who does care about Chad Michael Murray anymore? Like who does? Murray.
Honestly, Jamie Lee Curtis is the moment, so that's the one that we care about the
The
most about.
moment is me. So,
Yes.
but Elaine helps Harry through just as Aurora is doing the unraveling for the girl. And Lily is like very scared because she just
Mhm.
got woken up and she's about to be killed on this altar
Yeah.
when Meryl starts running through as a troll and she takes Aurora out.
Did we know? Okay, so did we learn if she has like a little bit of control over her powers? Because like earlier when she was talking about like, yeah, I almost killed the guy with the tractor. Like I was almost under the impression that this was somewhat of an Incredible Hulk situation where there was a little bit of a lack of control,
I
but
think there
now
is
it
a lack
seems
of
controlled.
control. But I think it's one of those things where like she loves so much that she's able to keep some control. You know how they always have that
So it's
little
kind of like the
loophole.
Incredible Hulk exactly, where it's like
But
when
if
we need the
Scarlett
Hulk's help,
Johansson,
we can control the Hulk, but when we're just like in a situation where we really need the Hulk to help us out, we don't have control at all.
we just need Fix in the corner going, "Hey, big guy, the sun's going down," or what?
Hey, big guy.
Sun's going down. It's about time to head in, or whatever Scarlett Johansson
Okay, you know what? That was actually very sad in Endgame, so
said.
let's not even go there.
Okay. Um, And then,
Marvel has had such an effect on me. Oh my gosh.
except it hasn't because you still mock it.
I feel like I think about Marvel all the time, honestly, though, and it sounds like the stupidest thing to say, but
Guys, when we record back to back and it's after 9, like things get a little haywire up in the podcast. So
please rate,
yeah.
review, and subscribe.
Okay,
We're losing so
so
many followers. Sorry.
there, well, I mean, we did leave them at the moment where a girl is about to be
Yes.
murdered. So remember, there's about murder.
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. And so Harry Aurora's like, well, you can't take me out. And Harry's like, I know something you don't. And she's like, what? And he's like, the numbered Pizza Express. And he
No,
opens his bag and
it's
it's
Tutu.
Tutu and all his little minions swarm
Yes.
her, and she starts screaming because like they overtake her, and Harry is able to like get Lily away from the table, and then Aurora is about to die, and she wants to fall on the table herself to like still throw everything into chaos, but Harry like runs into her and keeps her to the side,
Mhm.
and she's like
It's a very
cursing.
Thanos moment, honestly, because
Yeah.
Aurora's dying in fear and she's just like, I just wanted all the hurting to stop. And I was like, you know,
Hmm.
who else wanted that? Thanos.
Thanos. Laura thinks about Marvel all the time.
I'm not even I'm not even kidding, Hannah.
I know, it's just funny because it's like
I'm saying this unironically, and it's
I
just
know.
sad that this is my life.
I mean, this is just me saying I think about Country Strong all the time because I do.
I can be brought to tears in a Marvel moment. And Hannah is thinking about Country Strong.
Gwyneth Paltrow in that god awful movie where
Which one?
she
The
is
Marvel one or Country Strong?
Country Strong,
Oh, okay.
where she's trying to be Faith Hill to Tim McGraw's Tim
See?
McGraw, I guess.
Couldn't
Like,
they just get Faith Hill?
I don't. She would have acted it better.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways,
what a stupid
Harry
movie.
Dresden.
So anyway, so Harry did it. He saved the girl. He stopped the thief. He proved Mab's innocence and won her support for the White Council, thereby saving his own ass.
So, can I just
Huzzah!
say the Mab offers him a night position and he declines and he goes back to his apartment. It's all cleaned and fixed up. And this detail cracked me up. It says, Mister even has a new litter box. Your apartment was in such disarray that this cat didn't even have a litter box.
But well, okay, but also like they offer him a role, and then he's really banged up, so he passes out, and then he wakes up in his clean apartment. I'm like, okay, and it's supposed to be like a day later, and I'm like, Harry, why did you fall asleep there? That's not an okay place to do
I,
that.
I'm really concerned though about him. Like he's got a lot going on. He needs like certainly someone has been over at his apartment and has been like, I mean, Billy the
Well,
werewolf was there,
Billy,
and
yeah.
Billy could have been like, okay, Harry, it's time for you to get help. Like
Here's the thing.
Mister is crapping all over the place. You need a litter box.
I follow a TikToker who actually like cleans houses for free. Um, for people who are like in situations like that where they're so
Yeah,
depressed that like everything piles up, and like she
I'm
gets a
not
lot of
knocking him. I'm
no, no,
just
no.
saying, like,
Like
he needs help.
he does need help, but he does get the help in the form of the new summer lady who ends up being none other
Meryl.
than Lily. No, it's Lily.
Oh,
Meryl died,
I'm
Laura.
sorry. I knew who I meant, Lily, because then Fix ends up being her
This
knight.
her summer night because those summer
I think I'm just
nights.
getting all these names confused.
It's okay. No, Meryl died. She became
Yes,
a troll
no,
and
the
then she
ogre.
died.
Yes,
She succumbed to the poisonous thorns.
yes.
But Lily was like, well, I died near the Summer Queen, so her powers just kind of transferred over to me. Don't know how that happened.
Which
Shrug.
honestly, it just kind of makes sense to me
Yeah.
that that's how that would work.
And so Fix is like, yeah, it suits me to be the new Summer Knight. And, you know, I'm glad you're not the Winter Knight. But we got these little brownies to clean your apartment for you and buy you vegetables and Coke, I guess. Um, and so Harry is like, well, thanks, everyone. And and
He
then
doesn't say it in a normal voice. He's like, oh, thanks, everyone.
exactly, he is Batman. And then Harry says goodbye to Elaine, who's headed out,
Mhm.
and she's
And
like,
she's like, hey, I know about Susan, It's
I saw
okay.
the
It's time
diamond
for you to
ring.
move on. I don't want you to feel bad for yourself.
I'm not really in love with you, okay?
Mhm.
And he's
We're
like,
brother and sister. We probably shouldn't be in love.
and so she says goodbye to him as she goes off into the distance, and he doesn't mention her to the council. And then he plays games
And he
with
goes to the
Billy
bar
and
with
his
Billy
crew.
and
Yeah.
gets a pizza.
And Billy says, we did this whole thing and no one even quoted Billy Shakespeare. Oh, what fools these mortals be. And thus ends Summer Night. Great book.
And my final note said, best book so far, far and
Best book.
away the best.
It is so good, minus the random ace hired a hitman.
I mean, that the worst part of this entire book is Injun Joe. And
Yeah. And we didn't have
thank
to see him that
goodness that
much.
I was gonna say thank goodness that wasn't like harped upon in this. So yeah, yeah, like very few
Very
moments in
few
this where
bad
I'm like,
notes.
this
Yeah,
was a great book.
I like
Really
it.
liked it.
Me too. All right, guys. So that's join us next week as we do like themes and characters because I can't wait to talk about some of these themes and characters. Like I actually think we
Because we're
have
gonna
some
have
things
fun.
to talk about. Because this one had better plotting and thematic elements to
Yeah,
it. So we can actually
yeah.
talk about like lost loves and Harry as like the fallen hero in this book and things
Hmm.
like that. So make sure you're joining us because it won't be as depressing as every other analysis episode we've had so
Maybe
far.
this is becoming a fun podcast.
Oh my
What?
gosh. I mean, the energy level on this episode was pretty high, guys. So you should all be
We are
pretty excited.
trying.
We're trying our best for these summer nights. So join us next week to do the deep dive. Also make sure that you listen to the bonus episode that came out yesterday, with
Yes.
RR Verdi.
Who is a big Dresden fan. In
He gave
fact,
us,
he is friends with Jim Butcher.
mhm.
So if
And
you're a fan of Jim Butcher or Harry Dresden, you might be aware of R.R. Beardy and might want to check out that episode.
And he gave us some tips on what to do as we make our way through the year of the Dresden. So make sure you're listening for that. Also, make sure that you're looking over at ourpod.com where we had an author highlight over there.
Cameron
Uh,
Johnston, the
with
author of The Last Shield.
Yes, a book. I spoke to Cameron Johnston. He was amazing. He was so sweet to talk to. And so we have the uh interview up there. So make sure you're following on there. We got some great bonus content for you. And if you want to chat more with us, please join our Discord or follow us on all social media platforms at
All
OWWR
of them.
Pod. You can also check out our reading schedule up on ourpod.com where you might see that after our analysis episode, we are doing another nostalgia book club. So that should be
Yay! With fiction
exciting
fans.
with fiction fans. And we have a TV Tuesday coming out with a Fallout featuring SFF Addicts. So
That was a fun
get ready.
episode.
That was so much fun. I loved talking about it. So
That
we've
show
got
is
some.
amazing, and I love Adrian and MJ so much.
There's so much fun to talk to. So we had a good time. We hope you have a good time. And just keep an eye out for that. So we can't wait to do more with you guys. Make sure you're following, make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing, and make sure you're telling a friend so they can
And
join
thanks
in
for
on the
being here today,
conversation.
listening. We
Yep.
really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.